A safe learning environment is foundational to student achievement and secondary attainment. Often, this is related to school infrastructure levels, which involve welcoming, clean, and safe learning spaces, as well as initiatives or programs that address student needs in and beyond the classroom. When interview participants were asked about the programs or initiatives that increase school attendance and combat barriers to attainment, they primarily mentioned poverty alleviation measures. These are funded through the national and state level schemes and often align with UNESCO's Sustainable Development Goals of 2030, as you'll see throughout the presentation. The first and one of the earliest initiatives to be implemented is the midday meal scheme. This is a universal free lunch for all students in grades 1 through 8 throughout India's government schools. It began in 1995 and was expanded in 2008 to combat childhood hunger. For some students, this is the only guaranteed meal they have throughout the day, so it is a major reason why they come to school at the primary and elementary levels. Depending on the student's age and grade, there are certain caloric and nutritional guidelines that school officials and teachers ensure by working with the kitchens who provide the meals. In Delhi government schools, close to 1 million students are provided the midday meal, and that throughout 1,200 different schools. Although this does not extend into the secondary level, the teachers ensured that the encouragement for students to come and obtain the elementary and primary skills needed for secondary success is highly related to the midday meal scheme. Another measure addresses issues of period poverty. Over 60% of girls in Delhi government schools reported missing some school due to female hygiene issues. The Udaan scheme, enacted in 2019, provided a 6-pack of sanitary pads to students monthly at the low cost of 60 rupees. This was especially beneficial for students in rural areas. Due to COVID, there were issues providing with supply and demand of the pads. However, schools are working hard to continue that program and have also revisited it with expectations to expand it to provide 10 free pads to all girls in government schools. However, the issue also is related to disposal of used materials. So schools are including incinerators as part of their infrastructure so that girls can dispose of their pads in a sanitary and discreet way. Although government schools do not require a fee or tuition to attend, there are other costs associated with coming to school, such as paying for stationery, school supplies, uniforms, and textbooks. Families of certain income levels can register to receive help with paying for these items through the form of grants. There's also an opportunity to have transportation paid for or subsidized. This is because transportation is not a widespread service provided by government schools. And although many primary and elementary schools are located within walking distance, in rural areas, some secondary schools can be up to 2 to 3 kilometers away, which is not safe in some areas for girls to travel on their own. Interview participants also frequently mentioned the Delhi Ladli scheme. This is what UNICEF would consider a conditional cash transfer. Because of the disparities that exist between males and females for employment and income, there's a perceived burden that falls on parents when raising a girl child, especially for low-income families. The aim of this scheme is to combat that perception and to empower and encourage families to not only raise girls, but also to provide and support girls completing high levels of education. Depending upon the level of education that the girl completes or enrolls in, a certain amount of rupees is deposited into an account for that family. As you can see in the chart, there's incremental amounts that are deposited, and the girl can access this after she passes grade 10 or turns 18. Interview participants wanted to note that this affects a small percentage of families, as there are really restrictive income levels as well as residential requirements in order to access this scheme. Since 2016, there has also been a focus on improving learning conditions for students in government schools. Many of the schools sit in disrepair and are dilapidated, and due to the increase in population of the area, there is a shortage of classroom spaces, leaving many students in overcrowded classrooms. Since 2015, renovations have included renovating schools, adding new classrooms, and building new schools, including updating restroom facilities and furniture. However, teachers note that while these are major improvements, it has also come at a cost of green spaces as well as recess spaces. And many of the schools that have been renovated are in high income areas where the government schools are competing with private schools. As the government continues to look to increase learning spaces and improve the facilities that they have, they're faced with levels of bureaucracy and finding the physical landscape and space to actually expand schools, as that's at a premium in such a high populated area. Combining all of these factors of infrastructure lead to a safe learning environment. They create welcoming spaces where students feel comfortable learning, and also create spaces where teachers feel comfortable teaching. They address needs that teachers may not be able to address independently, and also address sociological barriers that tend to lead to a lack of educational attainment.